storming the floor. Love it. Sign your name, Brad Hoiberg. There's your signature win.
The Nebraska Cornhuskers have run the table and run it back. Back-to-back Big Ten tournament champions.
Here's Tom Stevens and Mike Melby on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
7/10 of a second left to go. Jacobson.
You can still throw it long, too.
Has handed the ball, gets it in, baseballs it down the floor, and it is touched, and it is, there's the horn, and the Huskers knock off Michigan State. Move over, top 10. Make room for Nebraska basketball. Make room for Daddy. 58-56, Nebraska beats Michigan State, and they storm the floor. Storm that puppy.
Did he say daddy? I think he did. Make room for daddy.
He did.
There's Kent Pavelka following Nebraska's 58-56 win Friday night over number 9 Michigan State. Nebraska, will they move into the top 10 of the college basketball AP poll on Monday? We'll find out.
CBS Sports poll is already out. Duke is number 8, Nebraska number 9, Michigan State number 10.
Well, there you go.
So educated guess that may wind up how the AP and coaches poll look tomorrow.
They are in Columbus on the road Monday night at Ohio State. Everybody's going to be tough.
Hey, quick question.
Okay.
How long after you and Heidi met did it take for you to get kicked out of the house anytime Nebraska basketball's playing?
Now I kick myself out.
Okay.
Because I could feel myself. I was watching that game, and Michigan State had taken the lead. Frager makes the 3, and then he does the gun signal.
Yeah.
And it goes from a 47-38 lead to 47-44.
Yeah.
And then they get the lead, and I'm like, Heidi, how can he do that? And she goes, I saw it. You don't have to explain. I don't know how he could do that. But then I finally left because I embarrass myself sometimes by my actions. So I went upstairs and watched it there, but I had to be to work as well for my other job. So I just removed myself.
Tracy had noise-canceling headphones on upstairs and could still hear me. So
right.
For the rest of the year, if it's a big game, I'm not allowed to watch.
Well, we've been watching Husker basketball games for 40 years together.
Yeah.
And
so we may have to go find an establishment that
we haven't gotten any better, by the way.
No. Because
we might have gotten a little worse.
We act the same way when we had season tickets at half court in row 27, whatever, and C12 at Devaney. So
it was so much fun. Nebraska wins it on a night where they didn't play particularly well. They shoot 24% in the second half, but they hold Michigan State to 6 of 24 shooting, 34%. They did shoot the 3 reasonably well.
They did, and I want to argue this because, like I told you, I was talking to my dad when I was driving in for the show today, and he's like, "Oh man, they almost blew it. They should have won that game by 30." And I was like, "Dad, you do realize Michigan State could very easily be in the Final Four this year. This isn't a team that
every year
they should have beat by 30." Like, Michigan State's really good.
They lost to Duke, was their only loss coming in, and that was a close game.
And to me, as I rewatched the game last night, and I as the game progressed, I'm sitting there and I'm like, Nebraska they missed a couple of open shots, but they didn't play as well as they could have because of how Michigan State played, not because they didn't play well.
Right.
Because Michigan State is that good. This was
but Michigan State didn't play great because of the way Nebraska played.
Exactly. Like, if you're talking about a Big Ten rock fight that teams that don't play in the Big Ten would never understand, have them watch that game and then have them decide if they really want to go play one of those teams.
Nebraska now has the longest winning streak in the country at 18, dating back to their run in the Crown. Sorry if my voice is going to be cracking up throughout the day.
Yeah,
so
you've got some stuff going on.
I got some stuff going on. I'm trying to stay within distance of you, but that was so fun. Didn't have the cold on Friday night, so I did all the cheering. But it was the first win over it was the first ranked Nebraska team beating a ranked team since 1991.
At home.
At home.
I believe there was one that we were ranked and beat somebody on the road. But yeah, it was the first ranked versus ranked at home that Nebraska has won since 1990 when they beat Kansas by 10.
And they beat a team that is averaging 80 points a game in Michigan State, that plays at maybe the fastest pace in college basketball and can rebound the heck out of a basketball.
And they did, but to the point of they've got one of the they play as fast as anybody. How many transition points did they have?
None that I remember.
0. So when I don't want to say naysayers, but like I've got some friends that and like I said, my dad and the people out in Alma, Nebraska that don't really have the knowledge of, all they know is it's Nebraska. They suck at basketball and they're playing Michigan State, who's kind of good, but hey, they said they're undefeated. We should have beat them by 30. Like they don't know all that stuff.
Right.
Nebraska's transition defense against Michigan State was astonishingly good.
That's what excites me about this team the most. Sure, they can win games when they've got their A or B game, but they can win games against very good teams. And you mentioned Michigan State could be a Final Four team. Who knows? Their only loss again to Duke. And Duke's really good again this year. But it was a rock fight. It was not pretty, but Nebraska found a way to pull it out. And if I would have told you in year 7 that Fred Hoiberg leans on defense to win games a couple of years ago, maybe that's kind of with the arrival of Nate Lenzer, it started.
Yeah.
But it's in full force, and you have guys that can execute. It was so much fun to watch that game. And here's Tom Izzo talking about the environment.
We were not favored to win here. Not that I care about the gambling, but I mean, it was the environment was the best I've seen here, and it's always good here. But it was one of the best I've seen in a lot of years anywhere in the Big Ten.
He was asked also about the improvement, this year's team versus last year's team from Nebraska.
Everything's better. Everything's better. I mean, it starts with Sanford and Mast. I mean, that's a 1 and 1 AA, and those two guys are really good. They weren't here last year. Remember, Mast didn't play. Lawrence, I told him I appreciate him coming back to the Big Ten, being here a couple of years, then going out east and coming back. Maybe he realized the grass isn't always greener. He's a big addition to him. And then I think the Frager kid is going to be a hell of a player. I think that's a hell of a freshman, and he's going to be a hell of a player. He seems to be getting better and better and better. And we got him a little bit of foul trouble. The Burke kid didn't play as well tonight, but Frager stepped up and really did a hell of a job. So, I mean, who do they have back? My favorite player is the only one they had back, and that's Sam. And I say Sam because I watched him get 10 rebounds the other night. It's a joke. There's not a kid in Big Ten or NCAA basketball that plays harder than that kid and gets more out of his. I had a kid named Timbo Gracchus, but he only played 10 minutes a game. And this kid's playing 28 minutes. He guards people. He motivates people. It's got to be hard because coaches' sons usually take a beating, Anybody in Nebraska bitches about him, I would like to meet that guy.
I mean, he's now the third coach.
I'd love for him to finish that comment.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a coach who says what he feels. And, we heard Illinois' coach say the same thing. We heard Greg McDermott say the same thing at Creighton. Their favorite player is Sam Hoiberg.
I was
Brad Underwood.
No, I'm thinking Oklahoma. I cannot think of for whatever reason, I can't think of his name.
Played at Creighton. I can't remember his name.
Yes. Anyway, he said the same thing, though.
Yeah.
He made a comment about Sam in the postgame show.
Yep.
And the bottom line is this is a team that you heard, I believe it was Brad Underwood that made the comment that everybody on the team excels at their role. Like they know what their role is and they simply go do it as good as they possibly can, which is at an extremely high level. And it's fun to watch. And it just, I don't know. Like I think there's 3 games that were on BTN Plus that I don't think I went back and rewatched just because I didn't. Otherwise, I've gone back and rewatched every single game just from the standpoint of it's fun to go back, rewatch, and you remember certain things, but you're able to look at other stuff and pick up on some of the nuances that as an average, we don't know the game inside out to the level of the players, the coaches, et cetera, but to be able to hear about what they're talking about with the way they would do a switch or not do a switch when someone would run a specific type of play. Fred made the comment when Rink hit the 3 with a minute 55 to go to give Nebraska, I think at the time, a 4-point lead.
58-55, I think it was.
Yeah, or so a 3-point lead. That play was the one that we ran that got him a layup earlier in the year, but the cutter went under the screen and Rink goes, "Oh, thanks, open 3." And I went back and so I'm watching the game again and I see all that action and I'm like, the intelligence level from a basketball standpoint that you must have to even get on the court in the final 30 seconds of a game to play at Nebraska and in the Big Ten and at this level of college basketball, like you need to be genius level.
Porter Moser, by the way.
Yeah, Porter Moser. Thank you.
The coach at Oklahoma.
But it's so fun to watch this team go through, analyze what's going on with the defense, or when they're on the defensive side, the way they help. You can see already that there's going to be 4 passes based on the spacing of an opponent. And that 4th pass to the guy that's open in the corner for 3, Nebraska already has somebody that's taken 1, then 2, then maybe 3 steps out to him, knowing that that's where the ball's going.
Right.
It's not a wide open 3. It's a contested 3.
Their defense, I never thought I'd say it, but their defense is really, really good. And it's a team defense that they run. And Sam's the key to all of it. I mean, you heard Izzo talk about Sam. It's his favorite player. Heard Izzo say the same thing. Brad Underwood at Illinois said the same thing. The guy only scoring 4 points, but his plus minus every time you look at it is ridiculous.
Well, but here's the thing. He scores 4 points when Nebraska couldn't score at the end of the game.
Right.
When we absolutely needed someone to put something in the basket. And oh, by the way, he also had 5 assists and no turnovers.
Yeah.
Now, surprisingly, with the type of game it was, he only had 1 steal where normally he has 3 or 4.
Yeah. But he's always on the floor. He's always picking at the ball. And if he doesn't get the steal, somebody else does because of his active hands. This is Fred Oiberg talking about with 4 minutes left to go in the game. There was no panic.
When the under 3 timeout, I think that's when we had the challenge. And, Rink came out and made a great read. We actually ran the same play that we ran to get a layup against Kansas State with under a minute left. And, went back screen, then went under and he popped out, hit a huge, I think that was his only 3 in the second half as well. But, listen, when you're down at the under 4 media timeout and you don't see any panic, you see the guys in there, we're saying this is what it's all about. To be in this position, in this situation, I'll go win it. And our guys found a way.
Kind of reminds me of the Danny Nee comment, maybe before they beat Michigan State. I could think it was with Bo Reed, and he'll be on our show tonight, Bo Reed. Before he hits the winning shot, he says something like, "Isn't this great? Listen to this crowd."
Yeah.
That may have been the best crowd in Nebraska basketball history. And Izzo says it's the best he's heard all year.
Well, he said
and for a long, long
like
time.
Several years.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, where when Izzo was talking about what's different, and he said everything's better, he goes, the fans are better. They're always great, but they're better this year. Yeah. And to that, and I know you got it in the rundown and all that type of stuff, and we're going to talk about it, and we'll ask our guests on tonight's show a little bit about it. But the question is, court storming with where Nebraska's at right now. I get it, fan base. I do. I'm one of you. Okay. I've been there since I was 8 years old. It's kind of the first time I really kind of got into Nebraska basketball. I was fortunate enough to be able to meet a couple of players, one of them being Jack Moore, and just fell in love. And that's always been my tried and true, the absolute epitome of my team is Nebraska basketball. And,
Me too.
And I get wanting to go storm the court when you knock off Michigan State, because that's what you do because you suck. Okay. We don't suck this year.
No.
And I'm not going to fault anybody if they do it, if we knock off whoever moving down the road. But at the same time, I'd love to see our fans lose their minds in the stands, be as loud as they want to be, and go, knew it.
There were mixed emotions among the players. Rick Mass said it wasn't a fluke. We're supposed to win that game. And he hopes Nebraska fans won't storm the court again this season. Jamarcus Lord said something similar. Bryce Sanford said, I loved it. I've never experienced anything like that.
Which
loved
makes
it.
sense for him. Like, he's never been a part of that. Of course he'd, and I truly appreciate that.
Yeah, be honest. And I definitely think he was. Rink's the mature one. This is his 7th year in college basketball. He's the one that I think gets everybody to turn the page as quickly as possible after every big win, and they've all been big. You're 14-0. You're 3-0 in the Big Ten. This is the best start. 18-0, the longest winning streak in college basketball. But I think that's what Fred has said over and over. What he's most impressed with is their ability to just move on. Let's see. Do I have it here? I don't. Oh, here it is. Fred Hoiberg.
It's a great win. We've done something that hasn't been done in this program ever, and running the table in the non-conference hasn't been done in almost 100 years. So there's a lot of things that these guys can be proud of. But at the same time, the most impressive thing to me about this group is how they've handled it. They haven't gotten big-headed. A lot of things have been written. And listen, if it flips, it's going to go the other way, and they got to handle that well. Hopefully it doesn't, but it's been a fun ride with this team, and they've seen how much effort and time you're putting into it to go out and execute game plans, get chewed out at halftime and handle it and respond. And it's, again, I've talked a lot about this group. They've been a joy to be around, and they've been fun because of their daily approach. And I promise you, they're going to be ready to go in the morning. We're going to do probably 2 20-minute stations. We'll shoot a little bit, and we'll get them off their feet. When you go on the road, you got to be fresh physically and mentally as much as possible. Had guys play a lot. Rink hadn't played this amount of minutes in a while, so it's going to be important, to get him back fresh and go out and hopefully play well on the road.
That's the whole thing. It was alluded to, I want to say, a couple of games ago after the Illinois game, essentially the press conference by Fred during the week. And I don't remember which week before North Dakota or New Hampshire, but it was one of those where I believe he made a comment similar to or along the lines of, following that Illinois win, we're still in the locker room and the guys have celebrated. And the conversation was, okay, what do we need to do to make sure the getaway game that we play here in a couple of days against North Dakota doesn't wind up like a couple of years ago? Because as great as tonight was, if we lose that game, none of this makes any sense. So, great win. Props to Jamarcus for hitting the shot, Sam for the pass, et cetera, et cetera. Go team. But we have a job to do. What are we doing against North Dakota?
Right.
Like, that was in the locker room. They're sitting there talking about their next game against a mid-major team that they're worried about after knocking off number 13 Illinois on the road.
We talk about our attitude during games, and sometimes we can get out of control, and my wife and your girlfriend both have to calm us down. This is actually the most calm I've been for a Nebraska basketball team in a long time. It just feels like when they do get down, there's something. It doesn't mean I don't yell or get mad, but it just feels like this is a team that doesn't react like I do. Fortunately, they don't go berserk. They're really laid back. It's like, hey, we've been here before. This is great. In the under 3 timeout, Fred has him there. This is great. This is where we want to be. Let's win this thing.
So Rank, I think, made a point at some point in the last couple of games in a post game where he said, we don't do the roller coaster. Everything's got to be even keel. You want to see roller coaster? You get a video of Tom and I watching a Nebraska basketball game. That's your roller coaster.
We've got issues. But we're happy campers today. We're going to talk a lot about Husker basketball. Mike Schaefer is coming up next from Husker Max. Talking about hoops with him, but also Husker football. Nebraska, of course, losing big in the Vegas Bowl, 44-22 to Utah. What do they need to do in 2026?
And real quick before we go to break, in case you have not heard, Kenny Minchny, former Notre Dame quarterback, is now the quarterback at Nebraska, or a quarterback at Nebraska. He is committed to the Huskers. That is official. And Owen Chambliss, linebacker from San Diego State, it is not official. However, all signs are pointing towards him committing very, very soon.
We'll talk about those two guys and much more with Mike Schaefer of Husker Max coming up next.
It's time to get organized this new year with Menards. Update your closet system and add style today with Closet Culture. Choose from 2 closet
Husker Rewind with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens. Old enough to remember Nebraska's national titles.
Oh, they don't have him yet. Look at Tommy Frazier. How many tackles can one man break? Touchdown.
Yet young enough to remember what they had for lunch.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back. I'm Mike Melby. That is Tom Stevens.
Hello.
And joining us now on the Summit Lawns talk and text line, Mr. Mike Schaefer from Husker Max, and Mr. Mike Schaefer, who has a brand new podcast starting tomorrow. Mike, you want to tell us a touch about the podcast?
Yeah, it's part of the I-80 Club podcast network.
Nice.
And you can get it on YouTube or Spotify, Apple, and most days it's going to be live from 12 to 1 on YouTube if you want to watch, participate, whatever else. Pretty excited about it. Got a really catchy name. Don't think anyone's done this yet, but it's going to be Unemployed with Mike Schaefer. That's the name of the podcast.
I like it.
Been there, done that.
It. We've been there. And done
absolutely.
That many times.
The portal opened, and Nebraska's already got a couple of commits. What do you think about Kenny Minchie?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation because you're gambling, obviously, that someone that hasn't had to play much in their career is going to be the guy that you sort of are betting on here. And it's competition for TJ Lateef, but let's not make a mistake here. This is who they want to be the quarterback for 2026. And all the conversations I've had with the Notre Dame people I know have said the same thing. Great kid. Going to fit in really well culture-wise, and he's going to work really hard. And the big thing about him, he wasn't turning the ball over as much in fall camp. His car was kind of the turnover issues, but he was also maybe a little bit more in terms of explosive. And so maybe that's some of the push-pull here. I don't know if that means that Kenny Minchie is going to be a game manager. I don't think we really know. We don't know what Dana Holgerson's offense is. That's the part of this equation that I think, the cart ahead of the horse is to just start breaking down the quarterback. We don't know what Dana Holgerson wants to do. We have 17 games of evidence, and I still have no idea what Dana Holgerson's offense is in 2026. And so, and I don't think he knows either, but they've got their guy in Kenny Minchie, and he's more throw than run, but he's mobile enough. And I think that's important too.
So how frustrating is it to have one of the most brilliant minds in college football, and this is not us saying it because he's here, it's because of what he did at his stops at West Virginia, Houston, Oklahoma State, and he's been the OC for 17 games, and we have no idea what type of offense he wants to run, but the one he's been running has not been necessarily one that rattles a lot of cages, shakes a lot of things. You're just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting for this creativity that I know exists. I mean, I watched Oklahoma State when he was the OC there, and they had Brandon Whedon and Justin Blackman and all those guys. I watched Geno Smith when he's putting up video game numbers. I've seen him use guys like Taven Austin in their career and create these sort of players. And then I watched Nebraska's offense, and, oh, cool, here's a wide receiver screen. That's the big wrinkle. Neat. They've been horrible in the red zone, and that's actually been an issue for Dana going on several years now. Guys, I until I see it otherwise, I think it's fair to wonder if he is creative enough for college football in 2026. I mean, look at what Utah was doing on offense and all the different formations and different ways that they could run out of these packages and how they could attack Nebraska. They're doing it by, the air, and they're doing it on the ground. And I get Nebraska's defense had their own issues by the end of the year. But that was an offense that, you go to a Nebraska fan, they're signing up for that right now.
Yes.
You go to a Nebraska fan and it's like, hey, guess what? Dana Holgerson's back with a whole new cast of characters. What do you think it's going to look like? We have no idea. And I keep being told, well, Dana's got to have his guys doing this, or, he needs to be able to implement. It's like, he chose to come in and keep a lot of the same assistant coaches. He was involved in the player procurement process a year ago. This is on Dana Holgerson and, by extension, on Matt Rule. And so they average 22 points a game. against Power 4 teams in 2026. That means you're taking out the Houston Christian and the Akron games. They're a very bad offense in 2025. I think I said 2026, but that's not good enough. I mean, they are some drives from Dylan Raiola at the end of games away from, not having a winning season, whatever else, but also just not putting up points. So, and all of that happened with an All-American running back. Like, how weird is it that Emmett Johnson has the season that he does, and Nebraska still goes 7-6 and can't put points on the board? And they had good special teams this year. It wasn't even a case of, you weren't getting these field goals or whatever else. They just couldn't solve it in short yardage or in the red zone.
Yeah, and it doesn't get easier. That is the schedule next year. You've got Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon, and then Iowa and Illinois on the road. It feels like 7-5 would be almost a miracle next year for me.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I'm also one of these people, we talked about how tough Penn State was going to be, and that ended up being a difficult game for Nebraska. But I think, again, more about Nebraska than what you actually thought Penn State was going to be. We don't know. I mean, the old portal era, things can change relatively quickly, but it is a very different schedule. Nebraska is going to have to show up to play. And I just think one of the big sort of things that has to happen here in the portal push is they've got to get some playmakers, across this team. They just don't have enough guys, and you lose Emmett Johnson, and as we know, Dylan Raiola gone. So you have those issues offensively. Defensively, they didn't have an eraser. They didn't have a guy who just made plays. They didn't have a flash player. They didn't have pass rush. They didn't have rush defense. You got a lot of needs.
So let me ask you a question. Is Owen Chambliss one of those guys?
I mean, I think he's a good defender. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've watched enough Mountain West football and San Diego State football to say that he's going to come in and do this or do that. I mean, I think that he would be an important addition for him. I think it hurts that they're not likely to get the Henderson kid that was their best pass rusher. I think it's Ryan Henderson. And we'll see. I think if they can grab one of those safeties, it would be helpful. The more players they can add from that San Diego State defense to make that transition a little bit easier, I think the better for Nebraska. But again, they have to make that adjustment into the Big Ten. And I say this all the time. It is the toughest conference in college football, not just because the coaching is the best, but because the offenses and defenses are varied and they're large humans. And coming from the smaller conferences, we saw Watson Trent was exposed. We've seen guys that have struggled making this adjustment because it's just different in the Big Ten. So Nebraska's got to have that all come together, but they also got to develop internally too. Like this, for as much as we've talked about Corey Campbell and strength and conditioning, and Matt Rule has all these things, you need to start seeing it from the people that have been in the program for 2-3 years, not just the portal guys as well.
Mike Schaefer, Husker Max, our guest. Also, the new podcast starts tomorrow. What's it called again?
Unemployed with Mike Schaefer. I know it's hard to believe, but I haven't had full-time work here since October, but that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
We're going to find our own way in 2020.
You always do, and we love having you on for sure. Nebraska's made a few hires, a few fires. Obviously, John Butler's gone. The new defensive coordinator, Rob Orich. The new offensive line coach is Jeep Wade. The better hire, in your opinion, Orich or Wade?
I mean, I'm a Jason Eck guy, and Rob Orich worked for him at Idaho before his stop at San Diego State on his way here to Nebraska. And just from the people I've talked to, he seems like he's a football person through and through. It feels like they hired a coach on the way up. I think Jeep Wade's a big hire too. I think if Rob Orich can get you an aggressive attacking style defense that can force turnovers, all of which John Butler wanted to do but never really came to fruition. And the other thing is, is Rob Orich someone that Matt Rule trusts in the way that he lets him run what he wants? Because he did that with Tony White, and it worked in year one. Some mixed results a little bit in year two, and I felt like John Butler was pretty hamstrung by all the different cooks in the kitchen. I'm fascinated by what it's going to look like with Rob Orich. He didn't come here, I think, to be someone's lackey. I think he came here to run the defense that he's had some success with. So we'll see how that goes. But Jeep Wade is success speech for itself. But again, Nebraska's got to figure out their line situation. They got to figure out what they have at tackle, and I think they're covered on the interior, but they've got to get some guys that can play tackle for them this upcoming year.
How scary is it that Turner Corcoran was the best option they had playing on one leg in the bowl game?
I mean, it's speaks to the fact that if you continue to recruit guys that are guards and put them at tackle, this is what you get. And that's what Turner Corcoran is to begin with. That's what probably Gunnar Gatula is. I mean, that's been a hallmark of Nebraska football as we go through this era where they don't seem to win enough games, is you keep putting square pegs into round holes and asking yourself, well, why isn't this working? Eventually you figure it out and you start to get real offensive tackles that could help. But, we'll see. I mean, it's not easy to go recruit offensive line, and it's not just a Nebraska issue. So you've got to have enough things to work around it as well. Offensive line play is down throughout all of football, not just college football, but high school and the NFL. It's just different right now. It's a tough position to play. And so, again, this comes back to, if you're going to have some internal development, you can get it on the line. You can get these guys bigger and stronger. And we see what a Grant Bricks is. And, losing a guy like Houston Kahina Torres is tough. We'll see what a Preston Talmua is. But, again, these are all interior players. Claude Puma, who you picked up, he's years away. As a true freshman, you're not playing him at tackle. You kind of need Elijah Pritchett to stay around. You probably need to find another tackle in the portal, and you move Gatula inside. You see what goes with that. But there's just no easy answers for this team right now. And I know it just comes off as a bunch of negativity, but it's kind of where we are. And they're 3 years into this, going into a fourth season, and there's nothing you can look at outside of maybe the tight end room and be like, hey, that looks pretty good right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. Ryan Henderson is the edge rusher from San Diego State that has decided not to come to Nebraska.
Yep.
Just kind of relatively recent news. Youngstown defensive back Makai Shahid has scheduled a visit or is finalizing a visit to Nebraska for early this week. Don't know anything about him. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but it is going to be interesting to see who comes in. About the only big name to me of the 18 that has decided to enter the portal, aside from Dylan Raiola, is Keona Davis earlier today. The rest of the guys, I'll be honest, when I saw their name on almost every one, I go, oh, yeah, I remember when they recruited him. I wondered if he was still with the program. So, I mean, to me, the losses so far haven't been overly detrimental. I was not a big fan of Dylan with Dana Holgerson's offense. I thought square peg round hole to me. I'm happy to see them going in more of a pass run, a mobile quarterback, bottom line. But what are your thoughts on the exodus of players from Nebraska so far on the portal?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much with you. I'd say the three biggest to me so far would be Keona Davis, who you just mentioned, Dylan Raiola, who, I mean, it'd be hard to not call it a big one. You saw how the team kind of dropped off when he wasn't available. And then I mentioned him earlier, Houston Kahina Torres is an offensive lineman from Hawaii that I was pretty intrigued by, but, he's an interior lineman. You're flush for players there. So that's not a huge deal. Keona Davis, one of those guys you want to keep around because he would have been going into his third year. Maybe you get the right defensive line coach to bring something else out of that. He almost went into the portal or did go into the portal briefly last year. They were able to figure it out. I don't know if that's going to be an option against here. But, Nebraska's defensive line, you got to get something from some of those guys. You recruited all these defensive linemen. You got them to stick around, and they played for a couple years. But, if you needed Keona Davis and Riley Van Poppel and these other guys to play better than they did in 2025. And so sometimes it takes a long time with the defensive line. So it'll be interesting how they supplement from the portal. And then, I think Van Poppel is going to be a big part of this going forward still. I know they're excited about Cade Petchock and some of those other freshmen, but they didn't take any defensive linemen in the 2026 recruiting class. So that room is pretty fascinating right now.
Yep. We've kind of buried the lead. Nebraska is now 14-0 in basketball, 13th in the country, probably be in the top 10 when the rankings come out tomorrow. 18 in a row, if you go back to last year, beat Michigan State on Friday night in Lincoln, 58-56. Would you call it the best win in school history, Mike?
No, I was having this conversation actually earlier here this evening with my brother-in-law, and I was like, I think the win over Purdue is better. It wasn't the best atmosphere I've been in that building. That's still no sit Sunday, and it's not close. I think the biggest takeaway I had from Friday is that at no point did I look at Michigan State and think they were better than Nebraska. Like, Nebraska deserves and is playing in these games because they're good. This isn't like some kind of funny mirage or, oh, wow, look at what they can do kind of thing. No, this is a legitimately good basketball team, and they're going toe-to-toe or playing better than all these other teams. Michigan State needed a couple banked in threes and maybe a little help from the officials to even be in a position to tie that game on Friday night. I look at Nebraska and I see a complete basketball team. They have some issues, but they can play different ways. They can bottle you up defensively. They can score, in bunches with threes. They can extend the court in a way that opens up backdoor passing. They're smart. They play hard. They're getting great role player efforts up and down the bench, and they're enjoying basketball. Like, it is a very, very fun group to watch. And I don't know that I can think of a player that I've ever seen like Rick Mast at Nebraska that just elevates everyone else that he's around with everything that he does, whether it's leadership skills, whether it's on the court play, whether it's the fact that he can draw defenders away and he's such a great passer. I mean, everything he does is special. And I mean, you talked about burying the lead. He buried that three, and it wasn't even a surprise when it came to Nebraska winning on Friday.
I want to ask you something about the guy that almost every opposing coach of a big name team that Nebraska's knocked off this year has brought up unsolicited in their postgame. Sam Hoiberg. You talk about somebody that has that leadership, the poise, the ability. They just go make whatever play needs to be made. How impressed are you with what Sam has become in his senior year?
Super, super impressed. And the biggest part is it feels like it's a sort of, hey, this is my last run at this. I'm not letting any inch get away from me. I mean, he's way more aggressive. He is way more willing to go into the lane and go up and under and finish with layups. He's way more willing to let it fly with the three-pointer. I mean, there's a good basketball player in there, and we've seen that for years, but it's always kind of been like he's nice and he does this, but there are no buts this year. I mean, this is a guy that's played a lot of basketball. That's clearly a coach's son. I don't know if you guys saw the breakdown on the Mass 3, but that play was the same thing they ran against Kansas State, but instead of the backdoor cut for the alley-oop, Mass does the bounce back for the three-pointer. But meanwhile, in the corner, you have Frager, who they want to run through, and it looks like it's cut off by good defense. And you got both the coach's son in Sam Hoiberg and Fred Hoiberg yelling at Frager to move, and he finally moves, pulls the defender, Mass pops back, hits the three. I mean, the intangibles that they have on the court with guys like Mass and Jacobson and Lawrence and Sam, like, it's just, they're a really, really smart team, and it's just a ton of fun to watch. I mean, we have watched so much bad Nebraska basketball.
Oh, yes.
That getting to see this, and like I said, it doesn't feel like a fluke because they look like the better team in these games.
Yeah, it feels like they won that game maybe with their C game, B+, B-. Yeah. I know they play great defense, but they can play way better than that offensively. I know Michigan State's
100%.
a great defensive team, but Nebraska can play better than that, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, just think about it this way. I'm pretty sure Michigan State played earlier in that week against Cornell and scored 114 points and gave up 97. And Nebraska put them in a rock fight and beat them that way, too. So, and Nebraska scored 88 points against
New Hampshire,
Illinois, or whoever. I mean, so they're 90 points against Wisconsin. I mean, Nebraska scored, but for them to go and win, I think it's one of the first times, if not the first time, that Fred Hoiberg has a win under 60 points. So
it is first.
It's just great to see that they can play in these different styles. And I just think that's going to serve them really well as you go through a tough conference slate. But one of those where, outside of Michigan, I don't know that there's a team in this conference where I'm like, well, I don't know if Nebraska can win that game.
Yeah.
Michigan, that is a different monster. They are on a whole other level.
Would you be stunned if they won the Big Ten championship?
Yeah, but trust me, I want to be stunned. Let's see that happen.
Yeah. Love it, Mike. The new podcast starts tomorrow. You're with Husker Max as well, and we'd love to have you back on the show soon.
Anytime you send me the text, we'll make it happen.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Mike.
Mike Schaefer of Husker Max and his new podcast. You call it the Unemployed Podcast?
Unemployed with Mike Schaefer.
I like
Fantastic name. And you and I have been doing this a long time, and it's always fun to see younger guys that come up that seem to have a wise beyond their years type of feel to them. And you're over 60. I'm, a year and a half away from 60. Mike's nowhere near 60.
No.
And the first time I ever heard him on the air, I had no idea who he was. And he laid out a take on whatever he was talking about. And I felt like I was listening to somebody that was my age.
Yeah, he's good at radio, to
Yeah.
say the least.
So-
Let's get to break and come back with some Nebraska football talk next.
At Audion Hearing, our mission is simple.
Husker Rewind with Mike Melby and Tom Stevens on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
While we're all excited and happy about what Nebraska basketball is this year, 14-0, the state of college basketball, I don't think is in a good place at all. I think the NCAA, does it even exist? I know it exists on paper, but what does it do? Apparently nothing, because Baylor just added James Nanji. I think that's how you pronounce it.
I believe so.
A second-round pick in the NBA in 2023. He played 5 summer league games, and then I think he played overseas in Europe. But he played with the Hornets in the NBA. And now he is with Baylor in college basketball. How is that legal? Because nobody controls the NCAA. You can do whatever you want to. Tom Izzo has called it absolutely. He says shame on the NCAA and shame on the coaches too.
Yeah, Izzo actually, instead of voicing his opinion and whatever, he actually called Baylor's head coach and essentially told him that this is BS, that he should know better.
Baylor's not alone in this. Other teams are doing it.
Yeah,
they're taking guys from international leagues, European leagues. Lots of G leagues.
Yeah.
G League guys are drifting into NCAA basketball. but it's just not right. And just because it's allowed doesn't make it right.
But as long as it's allowed, then, I mean, bottom line, what's the rule state? Well, I can do this. Okay, well, then do it. If guys like Tom Izzo don't like it, that's great. I agree with Tom Izzo, but at the end of the day, if I'm a coach and I'm looking to now, you've got it, and for whatever reason, I cannot remember Baylor's head coach's name, but he won a national title 2 years ago. He's not worried about his job. However, he'd love to win another natty, and this guy can help him do it. So why wouldn't he go get him and take him if he can convince him to come play? And the NCAA says, yeah, we'll shrug our shoulders. We don't care.
Yeah, I don't understand how this is allowed. I think the NCAA has just, Scott Drew, by the way, is the coach at Baylor. I think the NCAA has just thrown up their hands and said, so what? If we do something, it's just going to get challenged in some court and thrown out. So why do we, I think they're saying, why do we even exist? There needs to be a college football czar, a college basketball czar, and get these things straightened out. I guess you have the conference commissioners, but that's about it. And they're going to do whatever helps their school.
Yeah.
The conference commissioners.
Yeah.
Whatever helps their league and their school. I think Illinois just added a guy from the G League as well, or from professional basketball overseas. It's just Nebraska volleyball did it. I mean, so I guess I can't argue with, if it's allowed, go do it.
That's the whole thing. I mean, so Dabo Swinney doesn't like NIL. He doesn't like the portal. He's complained and cried and whined and looked like an entitled, spoiled brat that's a baby boomer that wants people to get off his lawn. But he like, you can't change the game, whatever. And Clemson has faltered and looked nowhere near like the juggernaut that they were for a decade plus, because of the fact that he didn't want to change with the game.
Embrace NIL.
And the game is still changing. And in this instance, it's allowing former professional athletes to come back to college and play. If you had an opportunity to get a guy like that, why would you not?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, now is
it's allowed to do it?
Yeah. NCAA, I think you typed in the rundown, the NCAA has obviously completely lost control of college athletics.
They've completely lost control. And I don't think they care because they know they have no teeth. And if they do something about it, it's just going to get shot down anyway by some court. So I guess they realize they have no power anymore and they're acting like it. Speaking of changes, talked about changes going on in college basketball. This is Matt Rule following Nebraska's 44-22 loss in the Vegas Bowl to Utah, talking about potential program changes for Nebraska football.
In terms of like looking at the offseason, looking at the Big Ten schedule, looking at the travel, we coming down the stretch of the year, we're pretty beat up. So how can we do things better? How can we do things differently? From sports science to medicine to strength training. We've been studying everything. And so, obviously the last 3 games make it hard to say a lot of things, but like, as I said to the guys, Henry Lutoski said in the press conference yesterday, get to back-to-back bowl games. That is an accomplishment. I don't want to forget that for them. But to get over the hump, we have a lot to do. And so, we're going to attack it, and we're going to be unbelievably persistent at it. And like I said, they're a great model, right? They were 4-8 last year, and that quarterback was on another roster, and he came in, and he's been a lightning rod for them. And now they're going to have to deal with the portal now too, So all of us have to deal with all that. So, but Pat Stewart, Keith Williams, Logan Holgerson, those guys, I think we're in really good position in terms of what we'll do in terms of personnel.
What bothered me the most about that entire statement was after the last 3 games, we can't really say much. However, in order to just get us over that hump to where we're now a CFP contender, we need to do better with sports science, with nutrition, with travel.
Right.
That's what he said, essentially. No offense, but getting your ass kicked your last 3 games of the season and embarrassing your program and your fan base is not just about to get over the hump. Okay. It's exactly that. It's an embarrassment to the fan base. What Nebraska football put on the field the last 3 games, like, are you kidding me? Especially in year 3 of captain year 3, I'm going to change the world. I'm out on Matt Rule, by the way. I no longer have a firm belief he's going to get it done at Nebraska. I'm not saying fire the guy, But I'm going to go back to when I was asked the question in year 3 of Fred Hoiberg, when he kind of started to turn it around and Gary and Bandamel went down. And I was asked, do you believe he'll get it done or do you hope? Well, I'm 100% hope with Matt Rule because I do not see anything that tells me he's going to get it done here.
Well, Hoiberg figured it out. He changed his coaching staff. He got rid of Matt Abdelmassih, who worked at Iowa State, but then recruiting changed in college basketball. Everybody was now taking portal guys. Everybody was taking transfer guys. So it no longer worked. Nebraska was not getting the cream of the crop, the best of the litter, like Iowa State was. So he had to lean on something else. And it's been more defense. I thought that what we did see last year, maybe more this year, with the shooting was something that we'd see right away from Fred Hoiberg, who was a great shooter. I thought that his teams would always be able to shoot. And they haven't until, Tamanaga a few years ago. Those teams could shoot and made it to the NCAA tournament. Then they were just outmatched versus Texas A&M. This team, though, is not only a good shooting team, and Sanford is as good as I've seen at Nebraska, and Rick Mask, as far as clutch shooting is concerned, I'm going to give him the ball every time in a big moment. But this team has defense. It has grit. It has toughness, something that we haven't seen from Nebraska Hoiberg teams for sure in 7 years. And now in year 7, we're seeing a toughness that has taken over this program that looks like it can last. Like they can always be good defensively. Yeah, part of it is guys know where to be because they're so experienced. They're an old team. But it feels like they can do this going forward, at least the defensive part.
That, and then the other part of it from a basketball standpoint is the head coach versus football, where you had your best player in Rick Mast over his last 2 games against by-game opponents from 3. And what did Mast say in the post-game press conference? Somebody asked him about what was the difference, what was the turnaround. Coach Fred.
Yeah.
He worked with, he is so good at coming over and giving you these minute little details that adjust the way you think, that adjust the way you have your feet, your weight distribution, your arm, like whatever the minute little thing that he's able to walk in there and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. And all of a sudden you're 6 for 13 from 3. And oh, by the way, we don't beat Michigan State without you being 6 for 13 from 3 after being 0 for the prior 2 games.
I guess what I'm saying, what the basketball team has that the football team doesn't have, and it's taken a long time, year 7 to get there, is an identity. You know what this team is.
Absolutely.
It's going to play hard. It's going to make shots. They're going to be nights where they don't make a ton of threes, but they're always going to play hard and dive on the floor and get the loose ball and just out effort teams. I mean, there's a, and it's part of it is just because they're old. I mean, Sam's been here a long time. Rink is playing his 7th year of college basketball. Sanford even is a junior. Frager, young kid, but he just feels like he's an it quality. I just wish whatever Fred is doing, he would tell Rule. Because they have an identity. I know it's a different sport, and there's only 15 guys versus 150 or 105 now in college football. But they have an identity in basketball, and football just doesn't right now. It just feels like and partly because of the portal, you're just throwing stuff at the wall and trying to get the best available player.
Well, so one of the, I'm not going to get the exact saying, people say it different ways, but bottom line is you find out exactly how good you are when you get punched in the face, right? You could be dancing around, you could be whatever, use it as a boxing analogy. You can dominate, you can hit harder than anybody, you could be faster than anybody, but as soon as that guy gets that one punch through and smacks you to the point where like you're seeing stars, how do you respond? What we've seen from Nebraska basketball this year is they hit you back harder and they laugh.
And conversely, Husker football, you're up 14-7. A couple bad things happen. It feels like you just fold like a lawn chair.
Yeah. Yeah. So like that's the thing. That's what you and I have both noticed about this Nebraska basketball team this season is they simply, when they get punched in the mouth, they just punch you back harder.
Yeah.
And they say, let's go.
They're not going anywhere.
Haymakers all game long.
They might lose Monday night against Ohio State.
State's good, man.
Ohio State's good. And everybody in the Big Ten is going to give you fits if you're not ready to go. One thing I love about this team, though, is they always seem to be ready to go.
Yeah.
They're able to turn the page very quickly and still play good basketball and focused basketball and execute the game plan for that next game. All right, that was fun. Hour number 1. Hour number 2 is on the way. Bo Reed knows a little bit about Husker basketball. He was a Hall of Famer under Danny Nee, and we'll talk about the game. He watched it. Bo Reed, Nebraska Hoopster, Hall of Famer, is coming up next.
Seven-tenths of a second left to go. Jacobson.
You can still throw it long, too.
Has handed the ball. Gets it in. Baseballs it down the floor. And it is touched. And there's the horn. And the Huskers knock off Michigan State. Move over, top 10. Make room for Nebraska basketball. Make room for Daddy. 58-56, Nebraska beats Michigan State, and they storm the floor. Storm that puppy.
Kid Pavelka on the call. My name is Mike Melby. That's Tom Stevens. This is Husker Rewind here on 1400 KLIN and 99.3 FM. Joining us now on the Summit Lawns talk and text line, Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer Bo Reed. Bo, before we get to the Michigan State game, we have not had you on since Jamarcus Lawrence knocked down the 3 at the buzzer for Nebraska to knock off Illinois. Would you say in your mind, tell me what it is, that is the best buzzer beater for a Nebraska basketball win by Jamarcus Lawrence against Illinois since when?
Against Illinois specifically, or just
no. In Nebraska basketball history, that is the best buzzer beater by Nebraska since when?
I think he wants to go to your shot at Michigan State.
Well, I think it was since Jamar Johnson actually made a 3 from the corner
Kansas.
KU, but
yeah.
And
you made one against Kansas as well, right?
Yeah, my freshman year.
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
I mean,
but it was a big shot, and set the stage for what happened Friday night.
Yeah. Were you at the game on Friday?
No, our house has gone through 8 people with the flu. So I was not in good enough shape to come down. I wanted to, but
well, you've seen this team now through the season and you've seen them get better. Is there anything about, obviously being 14-0, nobody expected that. but how much of this has surprised you?
Well, obviously, no one expected them to be this good, and honestly, them beating Michigan State in a low-scoring physical game has been the biggest surprise of the year for me. I was really impressed with how hard our kids battled on the boards. We really didn't get out-rebounded that badly, and I mean, I think every single person plays a role in that. Our kids just play so together. It's really amazing. It's fun to watch.
We had Mike Schaefer on last hour. He talked a little bit about Rink Mast and, that seventh year of college, the maturity, the leadership on the floor, in the locker room. After the Illinois win, I believe Rink is sitting there talking to the guys, reminding them, hey, we've got a getaway game against a team that had us down by 14 in the second half. This was a great win. Nice shot, Jamarcus. But what are we going to do with North Dakota? What are your thoughts on what Rink has meant to this team this year?
Well, I think Rink's obviously a huge piece of the puzzle, and his maturity and leadership and steady hand has been really good for all of them. But I mean, it's not just Rink. There's a lot of old dudes on that team, fifth year guys, sixth year guys, and obviously he's a seventh year guy and been through the war to come back, just rehabbing for a year straight on, a surgical intervention that probably was better, maybe not much better than 50-50. So that kid, he's got a different attitude because he's worked to just be here. And so he's not going to get too high and he's not going to get too low. Because I think at this point, at 14-0, the real question will be when the bubble pops, if it does. I don't know that I see us going undefeated, but at some point you get beat or get beat down or worn down. How does that affect them? And obviously I think everyone's clear. We can't have anyone get hurt. It's a beautiful mix of people that all play a very specific role and play so hard and cut so hard. And I think where Nebraska's gotten so much better, in my opinion, and I've always been one of these guys that talks about this, and not a lot of people do, but I feel like for years we were a terrible passing team. And I think we're not just a good passing team now, we're a great passing team. Just the velocity of how the ball moves around the floor, the ability for people like even Sam to dribble into the seams, be strong with the basketball, kick it out, and force their defense into rotation. Our kids pass the ball remarkably well with a very, very good assist to turnover ratio as a team.
Yeah.
So passing's a very underrated skill, but if you go back and watch our game on speed, where it's just play after play and you watch where our people catch the ball as they're getting ready to shoot. When the ball goes inside and comes back out, almost 9 out of 10 times the ball's hitting them in their shooting pocket where they don't have to hesitate. They can just come immediately up for a shot.
I don't remember the last time Nebraska's had a freshman player, especially from Nebraska, as good or impacts the game as much as Braden Frager. He obviously made the big three. Nebraska goes up 47-38, and then he does the gun thing. Michigan State gets a couple of free throws, gets a couple of more, and they climb back in it. But he was still able to affect the game. He's one of those guys that doesn't always have to score to affect the game, but he does score.
We had a few steals early in the game that kind of helped us kind of keep going, and then he got some really big rebounds in that basketball game too. He'll learn from that what he did. That technical could have cost us the basketball game, honestly, because it did stop the momentum. The place was going absolutely bananas, and it stopped the clock. It stopped the momentum. They shoot 2 free throws. They get the ball back. Then they make the cylinder call, which that's the new one on me. And Izzo, to his credit, got that call. The second that happened, you could see him run to the ref, and then they get 2 shots out of that, and all of a sudden it's a 4-point swing. So his 3-pointer turns into a -1, net because of his actions. Now, I'm not a huge defender of what he did, but what I will defend is he's in the heat of the moment and he's competitive, and it was at that guy. He wasn't going down the floor Like we've had some players in the past, you know, all the way back to like, well, I'm not going to call out names, but we've had players way back that would have been running down the floor dancing or doing a celebration routine, you know, bow and arrow up into the crowd or something crazy.
I'll say Casey's name.
Well, I'm even thinking about Cam Mack, you know, back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Those kids all were about self-glorification, and Braden just was caught up in the emotion of it, and I'm sure that there was some trash being talked, and he basically said, that's right in your eye, you know? I mean, so was it the right thing to do? No, but I'll give him a little grace for it because it was in a competitive, heat-of-the-moment situation, and I think Fred did too because he left him in the game, and the kid was playing well, and he made another big three after that.
Well, not only that, the what I've heard reported is that Braden actually didn't just post something on social media, hey, I was out of line, et cetera. He actually reached out and got a hold of the young man, and they had a phone conversation. I mean, to me, that says
kid realized for 1 second that kid had been shot. That it was the heat of the moment thing, and then he's like, he thought it was cool to say, I don't have any fear of him. You know, like it there's no way that kid was trying to rub it in that kid's face that he got shot. No one would do that. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that. So,
yep.
And it takes a big person to pick up the phone and call and not just post a social media post. So,
well, and that's what I'm saying is
kid.
I was so impressed by the fact that that's what he wanted to, he's like, I've got to make this right because it's not sitting well with me. That's not who I am. And I truly believe that's not who he is.
Right. I mean, the only thing I will say is the picture that he posted is really cool. Where, right after he makes it, I mean, it's a pretty cool picture. It's not appropriate to say that, but it's pretty badass.
This team certainly doesn't have as much talent as some of your teams, especially that 90-91 team. But how would they do? I mean, it's the best record, best start ever. How would they do against you guys?
Well, they wouldn't have matched up against us very well on the defensive end of the floor. We wouldn't have had all this motion. We would have just run our triangle on the one side, thrown it to the weak side, and dove to the post and forced people to guard people one-on-one. And that was a great one-on-one basketball team. But I'll tell you this, we would have had a hard time guarding them. We would have had a hard time with 7'2" and 6'11" Farmer chasing people out on that perimeter with how fast as the ball moves and how fast they cut. It'd been a hell of a game, I'll tell you that. But, you know, down on their defensive end, they would have had a hard time stopping us because there wouldn't have been all this fancy stuff. We'd have spaced the floor. You're going to deal with 7'2" in the post. And if he throws it out the weak side, it might just be Eric Piakowski standing there as a freshman shooting threes wide open. So it would have been a fun game because they play a very challenging style. I was talking to Fred. I think this basketball team kind of reminds me of Tom Osborne's triple option when he had the real athletes and the real dudes that could do what he needed to have done on the line. You have to play assignment defense, and if you don't do your assignment, we will make you pay with a three-pointer or a layup. And, you know, to Michigan State's credit, they are a tremendous defensive basketball team. That's the hardest we've had to work. And to our kids' credit, we figured out a way to win. Like Fred said in the post-game press conference, we won a rock fight. It was time for us to find out if we could win one of these.
I love what Rink Mass said following the game, talking with Nebraska Hall of Famer Bo Reed. It wasn't a fluke. We're supposed to win the game. It's at home. But I hope it's the last time that fans storm the court. What do you think about the court storming?
I don't really think about it. I love the fact that he doesn't want him to because he wants the fans to expect to win those games. I think that's really cool and says a lot about that kid's mentality. But, you know, do I care? No. I mean, I thought Izzo's comments were great. He loved it.
Yeah.
And he's right. It's a backhanded compliment to Michigan State that our fans felt like they needed to storm the court after a 58-56 game.
So moving forward, it is a quick turnaround, 2 days. They play in a place that is not easy to win at. It was a double overtime game last year, 116-114. They lose at Ohio State, but they travel to play the Buckeyes on Monday. What are your thoughts looking at that one?
Just going to be interesting because Michigan State's so physical and our kids battled and banged and, you know, fought so hard. It'll be interesting on that quick of a turnaround if we can recover. Hopefully our bodies can recover. Hopefully our minds are fresh and ready to get into another fight. 'Cause that's the grind of the Big Ten. And this week, the schedule's not very favorable. It'd be nice to have 4 days in between instead of 2.5.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. And Fred will have them ready. They'll have a good game plan. It's just, will we have fresh enough legs to make those shots?
Love having you on, Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer Bo Reed. We have him on after pretty much every Husker basketball game, as much as we can. But good having you on. We'll have you on soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was great.
There you go.
Thanks, Bo.
Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer. This is Fred Hoiberg talking about the defense on Friday night versus Michigan State.
This is the best defensive rebounding team in the country, and we were dead if we were going to chase balls down. So, I thought our guys really followed the game plan, and those were the keys. We had 2 of them tonight. It was get back and rebound, and I said it about 1,000 times in the last 3 days. Not very often are you going to win a game when you shoot under 25% in the second half against a top 10 team. But I thought our activity on the defensive end, 19 turnovers is what we forced. They take really good care of the basketball. And that was the difference, was finding a way to manufacture some points. Price unfortunately got in foul trouble. We hung in there without him, and we're even at the break. We felt pretty good about that. And then he picks up his 4th with about 10 to go. And again, we hung in there, but knew they would make a run. We got up 9. Talked to Braden about the incident. That can't happen. And it's a great opportunity to learn from when you get up like that.
Speaking of Braden, he goes on here talking about the Frager technical.
I'm proud of how he bounced back after that moment. He knew right when it happened that he messed up, but he found a way to regroup, hit a huge 3 for us a couple possessions later, and I thought made some really good defensive plays out there as well. But total team effort, Rink obviously was our offense tonight. Price, what do you have, 13 points in 20 minutes. I thought Jamarcus gave us good offensive minutes, but everybody that played, I thought, made a big contribution. Our communication was much better in the second half. First half, Kohler got loose on us. We adjusted, went to a switch, and did a better job. I think he made one in the second half. So just proud of our guys. He found a way to win an ugly one, and we can certainly learn from this. It's always better to learn when you're in the left column.
We know that Fred Hoiberg and Tom Izzo are good friends. His son Jack played 4 years under Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo loves, obviously, Sam Hoiberg, big fan, as most coaches are in college basketball. This is Hoiberg talking about his relationship with Izzo.
Listen, Coach Izzo's a good friend. I've spent a lot of time with him over the years, with Jack playing there for 4 seasons. And, that's the first thing he asked me, how's Jack doing? And, he's just meant the world to our family for helping Jack in the position that he's in now with the San Antonio Spurs. So, he told me after the game, he said, I'm really happy for you. I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. And that's great, to hear something like that from a Hall of Famer, one of the best that's ever done it. And, to me, he's an easy guy to root for. I know the fans may think otherwise, but, when he was yelling at DJ, but no, listen, he's one of the best. And for all that he has accomplished, he's one of the most humble human beings. He'll call you after a devastating loss. A lot of times people, hey, great win, great. He'll hit you up after you lose a devastating one, and that it takes a lot to do that. So he's a wonderful human being, and I'm proud to call him a friend.
Like Tom Izzo, but man, he gets some calls that nobody else gets in college basketball.
Yeah, I think before the show, I took out my $7 I have to my name and handed it to you and said, "This is Izzo to the refs, man. This $7 is yours if Mr. Sanford, anytime he's near one of my guys, gets a foul."
There were a couple calls. One on Frager where he's on the floor. He's laying underneath the basket. He gets called for a foul. I thought that was extremely questionable. Frager in the cylinder, which I'd never heard, but apparently that's a rule now. So they reversed that call. It was
originally the shoulder into his chin.
And it looked like you could call the elbow on Michigan State, but they said he was in his cylinder. So they reversed it and gave it to Michigan State. And then the last one was on Sanford. Michigan throws up a prayer at the buzzer, or basically with 7/10 left to go in the game, and they call Sanford for a touch foul, which you don't normally see called in that situation.
But the thing is, did he even touch him? Because there's not a camera angle that shows definitively that he did, and if he did, he touched him light enough that it did not have any effect whatsoever on his arm.
Yeah.
Because if he would have grabbed his arm, like you would have seen the arm move or but it didn't. Here's the other thing I got a question about. So there was 0.1 seconds left after the whistle blew. Okay. And they go back and they review and they say that at the millisecond that he touched his arm,
it's 0.7.
There's 0.7. So we're going to put 0.7 back on the clock.
Right.
Here's my question. Every single time, if that's what we're going to do in that situation, every single time that there is a whistle, I think we need to go back and review the play. If that's what the rule is, if just natural human response time.
Games already last 2.5 hours. They're
Don't
going to
care.
last
If we're
4
going to
hours.
call that like that, then let's just go ahead and change the rule and say every single time there's a foul and there's a whistle, we're going to go back and put that 0.3 to 0.7 seconds back on the clock because
Izzo does get a lot of calls, but he's Tom Izzo. He's a Hall of Famer. And Fred likes him because his kid played for him.
I respect the hell out of this.
I like him in some ways. It drives me crazy, the calls he gets, but he's a Hall of Famer, and I'm not. Let's get to break. Come back with more. Andy Markowski, two-time Husker basketball captain, played in the Danny Nee era, graduated in 1999. Talk to him coming up next.
And Mike Melby, two guys old enough to remember Nebraska's 5 national titles.
Man, woman, and child did that. Put them in the aisle.
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back to Husker Rewind here on KLIN. I'm Mike Melby. That's Tom Stevens.
Hello.
And joining us now on the Summit Lawns talk and text line, two-time captain of the Nebraska basketball team, Mr. Andy Markowski. Andy, how are you doing, and how was your Friday night?
Yeah, that was fun. I had a chance to
go to the game with my son, and it's not every day you see two top 15, top 10 teams battling in PBA. So super atmosphere, and just really excited for the program and the momentum that they're building.
We had Bo Reed on earlier and asked him how this team would have matched up with that 90-91 team. You played on some really good Danny Nee teams as well. How do you think it would have gone versus this team?
It's really hard, to compare without, looking at personnel and matchups and film and all that stuff. I think the teams in the 90s probably had more, individual just talent. But I think this group, I think Coach Hoiberg is a terrific offensive coach and has a lot of pieces to move around. And, they're really extremely hard to guard. And I think Coach Flincher's done a great job defensively where, this group is bought in. You got role guys, you've got scorers, you've got shooters, you've got some really hard matchups on the front court. I think point guard play is probably a little better in the 90s than this group, but they found a way to Lawrence has been solid. But that's probably one area that maybe the 90s teams had a little bit of an advantage over this group.
You mean Teron Lue was better than anything Nebraska has currently?
Yeah, you go through the list in the 90s. Keith Moody to Strickland to Lue to, that was one position that was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Well, go back a couple of years before the 1991 team. You got Brian Carr in there. I think he's the all-time assist leader. Yeah. And then Jack Moore before him. But at any rate, we've talked throughout the show. This has been so fun for us diehards. I was, I believe, 7 or 8 years old, and I was fortunate enough, maybe 9 years old, whatever. I was fortunate enough to be able to meet Jack Moore, and I became this instant Nebraska basketball fan. And that is my one team that I've always above any other sport, any other program, any other anything. And as fun and exciting as it's been for me as a former player, what does it feel like seeing this team do what it's done so far?
It's been a lot of fun. It's you wish they would just get an NCAA win because our program isn't as bad as maybe what that makes it seem, right? There's been Big 8 championships and teams have been to the tournament. So I do hope this team is the one that can finally kind of get over that hump and just kind of take that stigma away from the program, because I do think we've had some good teams and good players, but the wrap on everything is that. So I'm super excited. They're really fun to watch. They play the right way. That just the ability to have a different player step up a lot of nights. The role kids that are bought in. They have 2 or 3 transfers that aren't playing a lot, right? They probably came here thinking that they're gonna play, and then you look at like a Garcia that came in 2 or 3 weeks ago and helped them win the Illinois game. So just to have the whole thing bought in and win the games, the big games, normally we let everybody down, right? And Friday night to have a chance to finish that out with a win. I just hope they can continue. They're not going to, stay undefeated. I don't think anybody thinks that, but, just keep winning the games at home and being competitive on the road. And, hopefully you can get a top 4, 5, 6 seed in the tournament that gives yourself a great chance to win that game.
Talking with Andy Markowski, 2-time captain in the knee era. I can't think of many centers in college basketball, the history of college basketball, that remind me much of Rink Mask. The passing, the skill passing, good rebounder, really good defender, is always in the right spot. He's kind of a unicorn. For me in college basketball, I just don't see many guys like him like that.
Yeah, I do think the European influence on the game, if you look at the NBA, some of the bigs.
The NBA for sure, but in college basketball.
But I'm just saying, that European influence now in college. But to your point, he's not the most athletic guy out there, right? But he gets to the right spot, and I think he's really developed. When he came out of Bradley, he didn't have all that. I think he made 6 or 7 threes his last year at Bradley. Was a solid passer, but has just become a better athlete, a better basketball player. And, I think Coach Hoiberg is so creative on how they use him. It makes everybody else better. And certainly he's having a tremendous year coming back from injury.
I want to ask you about a comment that Rink made following a question that was about the fact that he was 0 against North Dakota and New Hampshire from 3. And, he goes 6 of 13 and what changed. And he alluded to the fact that Coach Hoiberg came over and gave him these little minute details that he saw on film and he saw during the game that he thought may help him. And obviously it did. Who was the coach that was on the team with when you were playing that would be able to get you guys out of a slump if you were in one?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we had a lot of great assistants. Early it was, Jeff Smith and Gary Bargan, and then guy by the name of Bill Johnson was there. And, I think every player kind of has an assistant that, whether it be a position coach or somebody that recruited you that, in the basketball team has the ability to have that connection and that relationship and be able to talk to you and guide you through that. But, on the offensive end, Nebraska has a really unique style of how they coach, right? Hoiberg is obviously the head coach, but he's the offensive coordinator and kind of the shooting guru, right? I mean, he's pretty good at what he does. And then, then Linzer is all defense. So they've really made that work. But when, a guy like Hoiberg is helping coach your shooting, he's got some pretty good pointers. And some of it's, just the confidence they have in him to fix. And the other thing with Rink, I do think he's 25 years old, and that was New Hampshire and North Dakota over Christmas break, right? Sometimes your mental engagement isn't what it needs to be. And I thought he was kind of going through the motions in those two games a little bit. There's big games and there's games. And I think that was just another game for him. And they came back and played really good when it mattered on Friday.
I'm not surprised Nebraska won. I am surprised that they scored 58 points and beat Michigan State, a team that's averaging 80 points a game. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I thought we ran really good offense in the first half, especially early, and just didn't, see the ball go in, missing threes, missing shots around the rim. And then the second half, I just think it was two really good defensive teams that had a lot of grit. I think we got out rebounded by 15, but we really didn't give up a ton of offensive rebound putbacks. I mean, there's a few possessions there, but we really took, good care of the basketball to overcome that. So it was a strange game, but I think it was the first time Coach Hoiberg has ever won a game scoring less than 60, right? So that certainly makes it an anomaly.
Question for you with the upcoming week here for Nebraska. You've got Ohio State sitting at 10-3. I believe they're 2-1 in the conference, and then Indiana 1-1 in the conference, 10-3 overall as well. Neither place is easy to play at. What are your thoughts with these next two road games?
Yeah, I thought this opening stretch, I mean, from when we played Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan State, at Ohio State, at Indiana, I mean, you're looking there going, holy cow, if you could go 2-3, 3-2 through that stretch, that would be a pretty good start to the league. Now we're 3-0. I think both teams are really good. I think Vegas has us actually as an underdog at Ohio State. Offensively, they can really shoot you and spread you. And then, Indiana is very skilled. Coach DeVries spent a ton of time at Creighton. So he'll have some, ability to work and play against our style of defense. So I think both will be really hard games. And, if you can split, I think that would be great for Nebraska. But, right now, why not? Why not go win two more and keep that nation's longest winning streak?
Nebraska women win today over Purdue 78-62, 25th ranked in the country. And Natalie Potts isn't back yet. Part of me can't help thinking, what if Alexis were on this team, maybe allowed her fifth year? How good would they be this year?
Yeah, we were hoping there was certainly talk with the legislation that they may vote on the 5 to play 5. So we were hoping potentially that she might get that fifth year. But, they still have a good team, and, it'd be great to get Potts added back in. I'm not sure what – I know she's kind of right at that, year to 13 months. Alexis still keeps in contact with them, and I know she's attacking rehab, trying to get back. So, that would be an important piece is they're going to, be very challenged in what is, the women's league is probably a little deeper than the men's league. I think the men's league might get 12 teams in the tournament.
That's saying something.
That's crazy.
The one thing I want to ask you, and we did last time, like, how is Alexis doing these days? Nice to hear that she's still in touch with her former teammates and all that type of stuff. But give us an update on Alexis.
Yeah, so she's going to retire. She turned down. So she had her hamstring reconstructed in April. Wasn't going to be cleared until December. So had some European offers and just decided to call it a basketball career. So she's working at OSA, which is a youth academy up in Omaha, and just took a sales job here in Lincoln. So she's gonna put the adult pants on here and start the next chapter. So, she still is around. Like that, she went down to the game today and just kind of moving on with that next chapter in life. So she misses a little bit, but she says her body feels pretty good and happy to be done. So she had a good run, and it's been kind of a little blank in mom and dad's world, not having a college game to go to, but we do still have 2 in high school that have kept us busy.
Boy, she was fun to watch. Andy Markowski, 2-time Husker captain in the 90s under Danny Nee. Love having you on. We'll have you back on a very special season.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Andy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Andy Markowski. Talking a little Husker hoops with us. He calls games for BTN Plus as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's always it's hit or miss, I mean, they've had some pairings on there where the play-by-play person was very inexperienced, had maybe never done it before, and the color commentator was more about their shtick than they were about actually being, I don't know, good.
But Andy's always good.
Andy's brilliant.
Yeah.
Andy will sit there. He's one of those. So when volleyball's on, we have Tanya Taki come on, and she breaks the game down, certain specific plays that give us an idea as a volleyball novice knowledge-wise, what is going on, what's transpiring, what's the mindset, how do they do whatever. Andy does such a good job when he does color of that exact same thing for those that may not understand the offense or the defense.
Yeah, he knows hoops at a very high level, to say the least. Let's get to break, come back with more after. I've got a cold. Do you notice that? Back with more after this.
You're listening to Husker Rewind. Sean Hannity is next on 1499.3 KLIN.
Upgrade your tool.
Years of broadcasting experience. I guess that means they're really old.
They're going to make him do this till he's 90.
On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back. We need to have that rejoin updated. I was kind of doing the math. I'm 34 years in radio career wise, and I think you've got about 7 years on me. So I
hate doing the math.
we're over. I think we're over 70 years of experience.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to talk about that.
Ran into a former coworker of ours.
Okay.
The Fox that rocks, Miss Julie Fox.
Oh, nice. She used to work at this radio station. Not this radio station, but used to work across the hall.
Across the hall, worked at a couple others here in town.
Yeah.
My days way back when I got started with what was then 106.3. And
nice.
But yeah, talked to her last night at an establishment here in town.
That's cool. It's always good to catch up with Julie and those others back in the day. Portal news.
Yep.
The portal opened, just a couple of days ago on the 2nd, I believe.
Yep.
And already Nebraska has made a little noise. Kenny Minchey, the Notre Dame backup quarterback. And I know that doesn't necessarily sound sexy for a lot of Huskers, but it was a close match with C.J. Carr, the redshirt freshman who won the job and had a great year at Notre Dame and probably should have made the college football playoff. Minchey, really kind of heartbroken. There's a video out there of him being told by Marcus Freeman, the head coach at Notre Dame, that he didn't win the job, and he handled it so well.
He did, and I'm not trying to critique Marcus Freeman here, but I'm going to critique Marcus Freeman being somebody that's had to be sat down and told that, I don't have a job anymore, and I've been laid off a couple of times due to financial whatever with the companies I was with. One time it was handled really well, and the other time was not. The one was, hey, your position's been eliminated. Is there anything I can do for you? The other was, Mike, you have no idea how tough this is for me, how tough this day is for me. This is a tough day for me. This decision was, for me, this is tough. And that's what Marcus Freeman did. And I thought it was very unprofessional, and I didn't like it. I loved the way Kenny Minchey handled it.
He didn't react.
He didn't react. And he may have gone out and punched a wall. He may have gone out and cried. He may have gone out and said, you know what? I'm just going to make myself ready. Don't know. But I thought the way Marcus Freeman, essentially a couple times, he's talking about how tough this is, how tough this was for me. And it's like, this has nothing to do with you. This has to do with the young man you're telling whether he's a starter or not. And anyway,
but it's got to be tough for coaches to have to deliver that.
I don't
news.
disagree, but it's not about you. It's about the player.
And so Nebraska gets Kenny Minchey, who probably will not cost anywhere close to $3.8 million like Dylan Raiola did. So I'm guessing, I don't know what players cost, and I guess they make whatever you pay them. But I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of a $500,000, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And he's being brought in to compete with TJ Lateef. I would guess, since he's got a lot of college experience, at least, been around a program. He's never started, but he's been around a program for a lot of years. He'll be a junior, and have 2 years left, whereas TJ is a true freshman. So I would guess that he would be the odds-on favorite to be the starter next year.
Yeah, and in his career, Minchey at Notre Dame, 23 out of 29, 212 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, and he ran for 84 yards last year on limited duty. I think he saw action in 5 or 6 games. His high school tape is good. Anytime you're a 4-star and you're going to put tape out, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
His ability to run is not like Chambliss. The other night we watched him, with the big comeback for Ole Miss, and Trinidad Chambliss, his ability to run and make that quick,
dynamic.
Yeah, the quick decisions to me is a little bit better than
that
what
was like
we
Michael
saw.
Vick-esque.
Yeah. Now we don't have a lot of tape that's from college or with anything that has ever been done at Nebraska, obviously, because he's just, committed here. It's going to be interesting to see what type of an offense. Well, not necessarily what type of an offense. What type of plays is Dana Holgorsen going to call for Kenny Minchey?
I was
if he
disappointed.
winds up being the starter.
I'll be honest. It sounded like Mike Schaefer felt the same way. I was disappointed in the game plan in the bowl game. I thought that TJ Lateef would get more carries. He did score a touchdown, and he's elusive. I just thought we'd see more zone read.
Were they protecting the hamstring?
Yeah, maybe you're protecting the hamstring. They didn't run him a lot against UCLA, his best game as well. A lot of rollouts. So maybe that's part of it. But I think Matt Rule has always gone more to the mobile quarterback. Dana Holgorsen has always had more mobile quarterbacks in his career.
Well, and this is something where you have Kyle McCord on the hook. I think McCord commits to Nebraska if Raiola does not call during the visit and say, I'm coming to Nebraska.
Don't you think that Matt Rule had no choice, even if part of him said, he doesn't really fit what I've done in the past?
I personally feel that's the case. I don't think it's one where he's somebody that you have to take if he wants to.
He's a legacy.
Yeah.
His dad played at Nebraska.
His dad's in the ring.
Yeah.
And I get it, but at the same time, it didn't fit anything that he wanted to do here.
And he was never Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was a mobile guy, can run around. Dylan Raiola can run a little, not much. But Minchie, different story. I think he's got some elusiveness to him. TJ Lateef certainly does. I think that's the quarterback that Nebraska is going to have going forward.
The question who's going to be the second QB they take out of the portal? Because I'm pretty confident they're going to take two.
I am as well.
Are they going to take a guy that is essentially a redshirt freshman, true sophomore, like a TJ Lateef? Or are they going to go get a Jalen Grandstad senior that is going to be your emergency third guy that you get out of Northern
somebody
Iowa?
Knows the offense.
Yeah, somebody
extremely well.
that Rule's going to hire as a coach next year.
Mm-hmm.
What direction do they go there? One of the directions they needed to go on defense was find playmakers, and it's not official yet. He has not committed. There are all kinds of predictions, however, out that former San Diego State linebacker Owen Chambliss will be committing to Nebraska soon. Last year for the Aztecs, 68 solo tackles, 109 total, had 4 sacks, 5 passes defended, had 1 pick, and 1 fumble recovery. All in all, though, he's a difference maker at linebacker. He's a guy that, in reality, based on what Nebraska had this year, is he an improvement over anybody on the roster? I think he is. But the Mountain West isn't the Big Ten either. That's the one thing. But he comes in as a guy that knows how to find the football, get to the football, and make a difference. He's 6'3", 230. He's not an undersized guy. He's only a sophomore. He's got a couple of years remaining. And, I kind of feel like he could be a difference maker. Put into a starting role in 25 after, I believe, a redshirt year in 23, and then played sparingly in 24, only wound up with, I believe, a total of 32 tackles. But 109 tackles last year.
Mike Schaefer on earlier from Husker Max, and he was excited about the addition, I think, of the quarterback, Minchie. I think we'll see. He's been very critical of Dana Holgorsen and basically said, I don't know what they're doing. So maybe a different quarterback. Maybe Dylan Raiola was never what they wanted. I wonder, like you said earlier, do they go get a second quarterback and maybe redshirt TJ Lateef? In today's day and age, it's tough to do that without a guy jumping in the portal. But the biggest loss, as you mentioned at the start of the show, Keona Davis, who has jumped into the portal, 6'5", 275, maybe the most athletic defensive lineman for a porous defensive line. I don't know that you could afford to lose guys like that, but they have. But with the NIL dollars floating around college football, maybe it's something that won't be a big deal after all. Matt Rule talked about, after the bowl game, he had a press conference, and it was mostly a state of the program type of thing. What else do you say after you've just been hammered 44-22 to Utah in the Vegas Bowl? This is Matt Rule talking about the portal.
And we've re-signed a lot of guys to contracts, and they can't anticipate being here. And there's some guys that they have to make decisions that's best for them. So we're not super worried about it. There's a lot of guys that would like to come to the University of Nebraska, and we're in a good position. So Pat and those guys are well positioned to do that.
I thought this was an interesting comment by Rule talking about Nebraska not being a top 15 team.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, we faced 3 top 15 probably teams, and we lost. So, I mean, yeah, we're not a top 15 team. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it doesn't mean we're a bottom 15 team. It just means we're not at the level of these guys right now. And so I have to take responsibility for that. We lost 6 games this year. 5 of them were to, ranked team. Penn State Penn State lost 30 guys for the bowl game and they still won't beat Clemson. I mean, they were the top preseason top 5 team. We're climbing, trying to get there. And, like I said, so we'll look at everything. We'll attack everything in the portal. We'll attack everything with our roster. We'll try to find ways to improve. So, that's, I mean, to me, it's really black and white, isn't it? Hey, they're the 15 team in the country. They beat us. It was, we were able to hang with them early for a while. We're not able to do it the entire game yet. And that's where we have to improve.
Matt Rule's a good sales guy, but it's really tough to sell. Not the fact that they lost their last 3 games, but the way they lost their last 3 games. They were blowouts. They were not close at all. And even when Nebraska started strong against Iowa or started strong against Utah, as soon as adversity hit, it felt like they just caved. It felt like, where are they mentally? I've said this for years. It feels like Nebraska needs psychiatrists more than they do coaches.
So go back to the comment Phil Snow made before the bowl game that, the last couple of games, we had guys out there running around that didn't know what play had been called or didn't know what their assignment was.
That?
And I'm sitting here, I'm like, how the hell are you in games 11 and 12? And you have players that are playing that don't know what to do.
And Matt Rule admitted that he gave John Butler a defense that he may not have wanted to run, the 3-3-5, which he did under Tony White. They changed defensive coordinators. They played pretty well against Boston College in the Pinstripe Bowl. They keep it. They go into next year, but they don't have Ty Robinson. They don't have Schottenmucker. They don't have guys that can stop the run, and they were terrible stopping the run. I go out and buy guys that can stop the run. I mean, Jalen George, they got out of the portal. I think he played like 20 snaps the entire year.
Well, wherever he plays next year, it's not going to be Nebraska. He's in the portal.
He's in the portal.
It just the lack of. When's the last time you knew what Nebraska was offensively and or defensively? It's when Bo Pelini was here. I mean, since then, even with Tommy Armstrong.
Well, you kind of knew last year.
Ron Kellogg.
In 2024, I thought you kind of knew.
From a defensive standpoint,
that was a team that could have beaten Ohio State. I mean, they were good at stopping the run. They were a top 20 defense, and then they just fell off a cliff last year.
Yeah, I don't know. It was still the lack of progress is astonishing to me, based on the track record that Matt Rule brought to Nebraska with him.
You mentioned identity. Because it's something we talk about all the time. It feels like year after year after year, Nebraska doesn't have an identity. And Matt Rule was asked following the game versus Utah what he wants the identity to be.
It's kind of for next year. I think we want to play great defense and play great special teams, and we want to control the line of scrimmage on offense and, be explosive in the passing game. And, we ran the ball really well early today, but we were never quite able to hit some of those plays, like we ran a wheel route to Ja'Cory and we just weren't able to quite hit it, or, we got pressure at times. I'll say this, guys like Turner Corcoran, man, that kid, he can barely walk. He just cares so much about being a Husker. I'm sure people are going to beat him up a little bit for a sack at the end or whatever. But man, guys, I'm just telling you, he's out there on a leg that most guys wouldn't play on, so, I love that group. And, but, we'll have a chance now to go back with Jeep, to go back with Dana and really kind of work through kind of where we want to get to. And, but yeah, we have a lot of work to do.
To Mike Schaefer's point, in hour number 1, you recruit a bunch of guards and then you try to move them to tackle, and none of them are very good at it.
In fairness, offensive tackles are really hard to find. Nebraska's best player out of the portal last year might have been Elijah Pritchett, who had a horrible start to his career at Nebraska and improved dramatically. In fact, he might have had the best game of any offensive lineman in the bowl game. And down the stretch, he played pretty solidly. That's one guy you need to keep. He's a big boy, 6'6", 330-ish pounds.
Yeah.
Those guys are hard to find. He was a 5-star coming out of high school, but even he couldn't line up correctly the first 5 games of the season.
Yeah.
So Nebraska, maybe Jeep Wade is the answer to all of this. I just believe, and I've always believed, if you have a great offensive line, it feeds the entire roster.
Well,
if
it
you
does.
can run
And-
the ball,
and even if you have great talent on the offensive line, if you have a coach that is in over his head, which I personally feel we've had for the last 4 years on the offensive line as the coach, then sorry, your offensive line is not going to be very good.
against a team that doesn't get sacks, you gave up 9 sacks, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Who I don't think Minnesota had a sack the previous 2 weeks. And they got 9 against Nebraska. Sometimes it can just happen, but that's, again, goes a little bit back to offensive line play, a lot back to offensive line play, and about the play calling as well. Dana Holgerson.
You know, the other thing I found interesting going back to hour one with Mike Schaefer was he made the comment that the only room on the team where he feels like you can sit there, look in that room and go, oh, okay, we got some talent there. We're solid there, was tight ends. And outside of Luke Lindenmeyer,
who didn't get a catch the last couple of games,
get a catch, like the tight ends disappeared this year.
Yeah.
The
I was surprised by
Carter
that comment
Nelson's
as well.
Carter Nelson's biggest play was when Jameer Khan blocked the punt and he took it in for the touchdown. And his second biggest play is when he cost Ja'Cory Barney a punt return for a touchdown by blocking a guy in the back. Like he didn't do anything offensively whatsoever. He wasn't even a part of the offensive game plan.
Yeah.
Like the tight ends weren't at all.
You
If
remember
that
how
room is
much
so good.
how much crud that Steve Sipple took before the bowl game of asking Matt Rule, is this a reset? And I thought it was a legitimate question. You're on your third defensive coordinator. You've got at least 2 offensive coordinators. You've got a new offensive line coach. It feels like a reset to me, but I will say this. If that reset works, and I think it's a reset, if Rob Orich works, if Jeep Wade works as the new offensive line coach, that's my hope. This is Matt Rule talking about the new hires.
I have no doubt that Rob is going to have us playing great defense. He knows what he wants. I have no doubt that in year 2 with Coach Eckler, that he's going to have us going where we want to go. I have no doubt that Jeep is going to have our offensive line being, a dominant group, and I have no doubt that Dana will get the thing where he wants it to be. So, but we have to get that work done.
Yeah, I think work is the key word. Maybe fewer interviews, maybe fewer podcasts, and more work. I understand why Matt Rule has done his own podcast. He wants to, get Nebraska out there, the brand out there. But this just is going to require a lot of elbow grease going forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, go back to Tim Miles when he got here. He was huge on Twitter at Colorado State. He's having his guy, whoever the graduate assistant that was doing his tweeting for him at halftime, and even during the game, he'd have the kid jump on his account and do some cute tweet. And he was all about that when he got to Nebraska. And then when he sucked, he realized, hey, you know what? Maybe the antics are more about me than they are about the program.
Right.
And maybe I ought to stop and make it about the program and not about me. Now, ultimately, he failed, and he's failing at San Jose State, which stinks.
Which is one of the worst programs in college
it is,
basketball.
but I wish he could turn it around. He's such a good guy. But, at the end of the day, to your point, maybe it's time to not worry about a podcast or being on the McAfee show. Maybe we worry a little bit more about Nebraska football.
Fred Hoiberg in year 7 doesn't do a lot of that stuff. He's not the best interviewer or interviewee in the world. I
actually think he's great.
He's okay. But he's certainly not Tim Miles funny.
But that's the point. I always said Tim Miles won every press conference he was ever in. Like, he won. They got beat by 90, and Tim Miles, you walk away going, oh my God, I love that guy.
Yes.
Yeah, but his team just got beat by. Yeah, but did you hear what he said? He's so funny. He's witty. Oh, he's going to do it. I don't want a coach that's going to win a press conference. I want a coach that's going to win a damn championship.
But it's not just Tim Miles that had problems. Barry Collier couldn't do it. Doc Sadler couldn't do it.
Well, but to your point,
nobody's been able to do it until year 7 of Hoiberg when we thought he'd failed in year 3.
I get it, but his press conferences aren't Tim Miles' press conferences. What they are is him being himself, just blunt. Doesn't give cute answers. He's just truthful. And quite honestly, his some of his one-liners and little witty things that he does are spectacular. The one guy had his phone up and an
he's
ad
sneaky funny.
an ad came on for ED, and he starts cracking jokes about it.
I've seen that.
I mean, that's
Very
what I
fun.
want in a head coach. A coach that sits there and does nothing but his absolute best, puts a team that's what we have on the floor this year, and they just win.
It feels like this going to be a more than 1 year deal? It feels like it could be with Nebraska basketball. I feel
Well, they'll have a lot to replace, but they also have got some good quality coming back.
Yep. And they'll be able to, if they make a run in the NCAA tournament, you feel like they could make a run in the portal as well. Let's get out of here. We won't be here next week. Women's basketball.
Who won today?
Will be on instead of us. We'll talk to you soon, though. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens. Bye-bye.
See you.
Serving in Vietnam, a grenade took my ability to see. I'm Michael.